everyone. We're here with Gardening Tips Live on our Knoxville Area Gardening Tips channel, or maybe you're watching us later on YouTube. And as we're getting going, I'm getting where I can monitor things. And let me go to my profile and find the video to pin to share with the Facebook group. Okay, let me share and let me share in group. And it is taking a minute. There we go. And then please click into the video to comment and see resources. We post. And I hit post. And so it should be findable momentarily in the Facebook group. Yay!
There it is.
Oh,
Doing it.
yay. And good morning, everyone. It is the last day of May. Can hardly believe it. Oh, it has been a busy year. And let me do one more thing in this. And I think I clicked on something I didn't mean to. I will warn you, we have been having internet trouble here on and off the past week. And so if I disappear, Toby and Margot will continue this. I never did introduce us completely. This is Gardening Tips Live for May 31st. I am Amy Hahn. I'm a Knox County Master Gardener, and I'm joined by my friends and fellow Master Gardeners, Margot Emery and Toby Johnson. And so we're here to talk gardening this morning. And it's spring. A lot is happening in the garden. And so that is, just normal stuff. One thing that's changed in our process recently, just for the show, is we are uploading the show to YouTube. Um, we're trying to do it immediately after the show, and then we will um, put the link in this post as soon as that's available. Depending on timing, sometimes we're doing it within minutes of the show being over. Um, it's just been changes in the Facebook policies. And so we're needing to do that. Hopefully that makes it easier for you to find us. And if you want to, you can actually subscribe to the Knox County Master Gardener YouTube channel. And when I post these videos from Gardening Tips Live, it will send you you can set it to send you a notification. And so you'll see those as soon as they're posted. So, hopefully that makes it easier for you to find us. Um, and then if you want to make a comment, you can come back to the Facebook group and you can comment there. Or you can also just post in the Facebook group. I see a lot of people are sort of looking at this video and sort of saying hi for a minute. Be sure to say, hi, I'm watching in the comments, and good morning, everyone. What is it? A lot's happening in my garden. Hopefully stuff is happening in you all's gardens. And Margot also has a lot going on. And so we're going to get started. We always start with a slideshow and sort of use that to guide our discussion. And so let me go ahead and get that started for this morning. Let's see, we're starting with Margot's photos.
Yeah, and spring is happening indoors with our indoor plants too. This is an oncidium orchid that's mounted on a piece of bark. It's called Lemon Smiles. And I saw the speckling there on the leaf tip, and I thought, what does this mean? Is this some kind of disease? Do I need to be concerned? And no, it is the older leaf coming out of the pseudobulb. You may see some speckling on your orchid leaves if you've got some types that are other than phals. And it's just that leaf
Wait, you're
aging
using
out.
abbreviations.
I mean, uh,
Okay, so what kind of orchid is this?
this is an oncidium.
Oncidium, starting with an O?
Yeah,
Okay. And then you mentioned phals. What are phals?
Phalaenopsis, the moth orchids that we see at the grocery stores.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Um, I've got some fails and they're doing fine. I'm not seeing speckling, but you're going to see some speckling on some other types of orchids. And it just, if you see new leaves coming out and new air roots, and this is spring, and that's when the plants are putting them out, this is just a sign of a leaf aging out. But another sign, if you do see speckles at other times or on other leaves, might be low humidity. You might need to bump up the humidity. And I plan to do that with this plant anyway. They're humidity loving, oncidiums are. They're called the dancing lady orchids. Amy, you may have seen them with the little leaves, lots of little leafed blooms, petals
Oh,
that just kind
nice.
of dance in the wind. A lot of them are yellow.
Hmm.
We're going to be talking about figs this show, and we had a tragedy with a slow growing fig of ours being mowed twice by our landscaper. He did it because the new leaves were just at the very base of the older stems, and he took that puppy out. And so I got a brown turkey and a Celeste, and they're in 3-gallon pots. And I had called around first to a couple of garden centers to see what size they had of Celeste. And one didn't have any, one just had a 1-gallon pot. But lots of plant sales happen on Facebook Marketplace, and I found somebody who's worked in the nursery industry, and he was saying the 3-gallon Celeste, even though it's kind of small, is going to give me a big head start over a Celeste fig that is just in a 1-gallon pot. So I've got those to plant out this weekend while the soil is still damp.
Lovely.
These are 4 o'clocks coming up. I've never grown them before. I'm excited about it. They're by my back steps. Amy and I were zooming in and seeing that something's been munching on the leaves, and a little hard to tell if it was slugs or maybe a caterpillar. And the leaf tips on the left side might be a bird, but I'm not worried about it because there's a lot of intact leaves, and I think they'll do fine. They're growing fast. And if you see on
Hmm.
the bottom right there, we kind of think that was a weed whacker missile coming in and tearing that leaf.
Mhm.
The weed whacker is going a little bit crazy with things. These are Jerusalem artichokes I planted about a week ago. They've got mildew on the bottom leaves, but they're doing fine. I'm going to have to move them, I think, because one of the figs is going to go near my deck, and they're in the vicinity of that. They love full sun, so I'm going to move them a bit away to a better spot. So anybody recognize these kind of flowers?
Hmm.
I gave you a hint, I think, Amy. I may have told you. It is
And they look
cilantro.
familiar, but I'm not sure.
Cilantro. My
Oh, okay.
cilantro has bolted. I discovered I didn't like cilantro as much as I thought I did, so I haven't used a lot of it. But I've let it go to into bloom because I don't need to plant anything there for the moment. It's keeping the ground covered, and I wanted to see if any pollinators might like the blooms, the
Mm-hmm.
nectar. And here we have a pollinator. And I was thinking,
Hmm.
that's great. But the other kind of insect I noticed on the blooms was a kudzu bug, and I'm not too happy about
Interesting.
feeding them. But they
Hmm.
were on one of the blooms too.
Hmm. They're interesting bugs. They sort of look, to me, they look like tanks. Little beetle tanks.
And they make a bad stink.
Yeah.
My iris are doing great in containers. I don't have a good place to plant them, so I just put them in containers. What I like about them in containers is they don't have to be watered. I don't have to get out there every other day and water an annual that needs some TLC. These do fine. And those are Deutzia coming up on the in the ground there toward the right.
Okay.
I would rather have native plants. Deutzia are not native, but
Mhm.
they're from my late mother through a Girl
Hmm.
Scout leader, so they've got a lot of sentimental value.
Yeah. Is that also what's called poet's laurel?
I'm not sure. I know it's
Okay.
called bridal veil Deutzia,
Oh, okay. No, it's not that.
and
So it
it
does white flowers in the spring, early spring.
it does, and the botanical name is Deutzia gracilis.
Okay. Yeah, little tiny white flowers, but it's covered with them.
It is, and I've got white accents on my house, so I'm gonna
Oh,
like them there.
nice.
And
Okay.
the flowers stay on a long time, so I'm pleased with
Hmm.
that.
Oh, that's
This
nice.
I'm gonna nail the name because I always call it something slightly different. This is a shrubby St. John's wort. There are
Hmm.
many different St. John's worts,
Yes.
and we've got several shrubs of them. In the light yesterday afternoon, this one
Hmm.
photographed the best in terms of the buds showing up. And
Hmm.
as you can see, they're just about to open because one bloom is there, and that's a close-up of a
Hmm.
bloom. And
Those are beautiful.
it will be covered with bees and
Hmm.
bumblebees very soon. They just buzz around those shrubs, and you can go stand near one of the shrubs and hear the buzzing and just watch the bees.
Yeah, and
They're
you'll
good
see this
pollinators.
sometimes as a landscape plant, um, commercial landscape plant. Oftentimes it's a different form, slightly different form, and the leaves are a little rounder.
And you
But you
see
can,
the pretty foliage there.
yeah, you can tell from the flowers for sure.
So these are less pretty, but mullein is my spirit herb, and they come up in a different spot every year. And these are growing by the road. That's asphalt there on the
Mm-hmm.
left. And I've had to protect them from the landscaper, but they're now big enough and he knows to leave them alone. But I love having mullein growing on the property. It's a medicinal herb. And what's so fun about it is you can scatter the seeds in one place, but it's not going to come up there. It's going to come up somewhere else, unpredictable. It moves around the yard and on different sides of the house.
Oh,
And
cool.
I've got one coming up in my vegetable bed, and I'm debating about whether to leave it or not.
And hi, Nicole. We're glad you're joining us. And if you have any questions about what we're talking about or anything else gardening, just be sure to post it in the comments, and we'll do our best to answer while we're live here.
And we're almost through with my side.
Margot, I missed what that was called. I was typing something else in the chat. What was that plant called on the side of the road?
Oh, mullein, Mullein.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
It's not a native, but it's domesticated here in the US. It's spread and established.
Yeah. And it's one of those, there's a lot of non-natives that are not problematic, to wilderness areas or anything like that. And I would put mullein in that category,
And
at least for our area.
it's a 2-year plant. This year is the first year for those. They're going to stay small. Next year, they'll get really big and they'll send up a dramatic bloom spike that has yellow flowers, and then it turns to seed pods, and pollinators like those yellow flowers.
Hmm.
This is coming up all over the place. When I moved here, it's a tiny house development. The developer had put in a giant sprawling native plants pollinator garden. And we didn't get a map of where things were. We just got a plant list, which was not ideal. And when these started coming up this spring, I saw the purple flowers. I thought it was a native phlox, but it is not. It is a silver dollar plant. And they spread like crazy. Some people do find them invasive, but they're beautiful for bouquets when they dry at the end of the season,
Hmm.
and they are everywhere.
Yeah, and their flowers are pretty too.
They are. So if you see one in your yard, just know you're probably going to get a lot more.
Hmm. Oh, now we're to my plants.
Yes.
Okay, I have a couple green stalk towers. Actually, some of them came from Margot because they just didn't work with her situation. Um, but this year, someone gave me some, I guess it was scarlet kale, and it is the only kale I have growing, only cabbage family plant that I have, and it went to seed. And so I'm actually gonna collect these seed pods from it. Um, You can see these are the seed pods, and they have little round black seeds in them. So what I'm going to do, hopefully this afternoon or before our next rain, I'll come through and I'll cut them off before probably actually below some of the leaves and just break the leaves off. And I will put the whole stalk, and there are several of them. I've got some more over there. I'll put them in a paper bag, and I will hang it in a place where it's dark, but it still gets a little airflow. And so I will let those seeds sit there and dry for a while, and those seed pods will pop open. One of the things with saving seed from anything in the cabbage family, which kale um, is all the members of that family will cross with each other. And so you really have to make sure you only have one type going to seed at a time if you want to get what you started with, or something similar to what you started with. Let's see. Um, I don't know if many of you have been following, but I planted my peas very, very late this year. It was into March, and you usually plant probably the end of March, beginning of April. And I'm actually getting peas because we're having such a cool spring. So I'm excited about that. I did taste some, and they are very nice. This is what is it? Sugar melting pea. And so it actually to me is similar to Oregon giant pea, but they're not as the pods aren't quite as thick. They're not tough, but just quite as thick. And the plant is more of a vining plant. The Oregon giant pea they call it giant because the pods are giant. It's giant snow pea for its full name. Uh, is more of a bush plant. It only grows to about 3 feet tall. This one looks like it would be a much taller plant. So it might be a better one for me because I like growing my peas on a trellis, on a large trellis. Um, and so probably next year that's what I'm going to plant. So I have changed my snow pea selection. Okay, this is figs. This is a fig bush that's in a container. And I brought it in once or twice over the winter when we were having colder days. You can sort of see the top of it died back a little bit, but not completely. And I have figs on it. And so I should have at least a couple figs to eat this year. Now, my fig out in the ground, it died back and it's got a lot of new growth coming. The only problem is if I need to trim out the dead pieces, of course. You can always prune out dead wood from any woody plant. Just be pretty sure it's dead when you go to prune it. But what I've found is if I leave all these new sprouts to come up, it will spread out its energy and will start to set fruit really late. And so I will not get any ripe fruit before fall. So what I need to do is I need to go through here and I need to pick out like 7 of these to leave. And then if I do that, I will have a fair chance of actually getting fruit. So that is one of my projects for the next week. I'll let you know next week if I actually do it. Now I have another fig bush that is a real different habit. Oh, I'm not telling you the varieties because I don't know them. This is a fig that came from my mother-in-law, and her father grew it in Fountain City, and I just call it the medley fig because it was the medley family. Um,
Aw,
but it doesn't match. Its leaf shape, you can tell it's leaf shape here, and the shape and size of its fruit, I can't find a match for it. And there are literally hundreds of kinds of figs. So it's some people are doing genetic testing on them to try to figure out which ones are which, but I'm not going that far with this.
Yeah,
And it,
we went through our orchard
Hmm.
and we're trying to take pictures and try to figure out which trees were apple, which were pear. We found a pear tree, which
Oh,
blew
cool.
our minds. We didn't realize we had a small pear tree.
Hmm.
We have some cherries, but you don't really get, we use the Plant Finder app and you don't
Yeah,
get the variety, at least yet. Maybe when the fruit it just says common apple, like eating apple,
right.
sweet cherry. It's probably the same with figs, right?
Oh, yeah. There's a website that's Figs for Fun, and the four is the numeral. Um, and they have an inventory. I think that's the one that has the inventory of fig varieties. And so they have pictures of the leaves and the fruit, and there's hundreds, and they're all slightly different. And it's like, now, this other fig I've got back here is actually a different. Okay, this one in front will produce fruit on the new wood. This one in the back does not produce fruit on the new wood. Um, so I will probably go through and prune it too, but um, I'm not likely to lose fruit this year because I'm not going to get fruit this year off of it because it produces its fruit on second year off of second year wood. So yeah, and I think this one back here is a variety called Hunt. It was given to my mother-in-law's father from someone in Georgia.
So
And
how did
the
you
Hunt variety was
discover,
developed in Georgia.
did you know already old wood or new wood, or did you discover it from pruning and realize, how come I don't have figs this year?
I knew it from watching how theirs grew.
Okay.
Yeah. This one, the one in front, produces its figs along the branches. So if we go back to this picture, you can see the figs are along the branch, and they really go every leaf node along the branch.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see even this branch here, it's right on the leaf nodes.
Mm-hmm.
The other fig will produce its figs at the tip of a branch. So they're just very different in how they produce.
So old wood is on the tip of the branch.
Um, yeah, a lot for these figs. And I think
Yeah.
that is how figs do it.
Mm-hmm.
So ones that do on it's stems that come off of second year wood.
Okay.
And so this one won't have any this year, none of them will do that. And I'm trying to figure out my figs. We used to have a wooden fence here, and I think it gave them some protection. And since we haven't had the wooden fence, they have seemed to die to the ground every year.
Mm.
So I think I need to put something along here to protect them from. We have a strong prevailing wind that comes through,
Mm.
and so we'll see what happens. Okay, so this one, oh, excuse me. Okay, there's a branch of this fig that is just laying along the ground. And so this is an opportunity to do something. It's called layering, and it is a way of making new plants. And I think I am actually going to do that with this. So what I will do is, so you can see this branch, it's still attached to the mother plant.
A simple thumb trick discovered by NASA scientists could
Interesting.
be key.
I'm copying a YouTube video from LSU on layering figs, but
Oh, cool.
it
Okay.
unfortunately had the
And it had an
audio.
ad that insisted
Yeah.
on playing. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the leaves off here, and on the underside, it's not attached anywhere to the ground here, but where it's laying really nicely, I will scoop out a little bit of the dirt. I will also scrape just the outside of the bark of the underside of that fig branch to expose the bright green cambium layer. And I will sort of lay it in there, put a little dirt over it, put a rock on top, probably a brick because I have extra bricks. And then I will leave it for probably a year. And then when I come back to this next year, I will have a new fig bush that I can dig up, easily dig up and give to somebody.
And just as a side note, the Deutzia I have that we looked at
Mhm.
earlier, that's how they were propagated
Oh,
in
cool.
our descendants from my mother's.
Yeah. And so a lot of woody plants are very easy to propagate that way if you have the time. And I've actually had this plant, had figs, and I've had forsythia layer themselves accidentally before. You know, when I didn't clean up around them, and then for a year or so, and I would come and do cleanup and realize, oh, I've got extra plants. And so that's what's happening here. So I think I'm going to do that because I would like to have a couple of these. Um, Stuff happens sometimes that's unexpected, and sometimes plants get killed. And so if you've given away an heirloom plant to someone and yours dies, you can ask for a cutting of it, and so you can have it again. So I'd like to be able to do that, especially with something like that. Okay, now this is just a curiosity. We hired someone to come and do cleanup in this area, so they've cut back everything that was a little crazy and kept the things we wanted to keep. Um, but one of the things that is in here that is just sort of fun. I don't know if you can't really see it yet, but let me zoom in here. Do you see this nice tall asparagus spear?
Nice.
So a few years ago, one of the big box stores apparently had extra asparagus plants and they were just giving them away for free. And I just planted it out here for the heck of it. And so every year I get a couple asparagus spears and I get the asparagus ferns coming up. They cut them back when they did the cleanup. And so the asparagus roots are still in there, and they decided to pop up one more spear. They'll probably pop up more, and I will let those ferns stay because it's just an interesting plant to have in your landscape. There is a book from a long time ago called Chasing the Wild Asparagus um, about foraging, and asparagus is one of those things that is super identifiable. And that's always a good thing if you're considering foraging for food crops, to have something that's really identifiable. Okay, tomatoes. This is an early girl tomato plant that I have in a container. I purchased this one from the nursery, and it's got green tomatoes. Yay! Um, I always have green tomatoes always stay green way longer than we want them to. This is actually an early girl plant that I started in April, probably beginning of April, and planted in the beginning of a couple of weeks ago. And so it's doing nicely and should give me some nice fruit, but it is about a month behind the other one because it was probably started a month or more later. Okay, this is a marigold that I've planted in. It was a volunteer, so it's a little bit behind some other things, but I did pop that little flower off because at this size, I want this plant to concentrate, to put its energies toward growing roots and growing more foliage to collect more sunlight and so have more energy for the plant. Probably its next flower, I'll let it bloom. Okay, this is some basil. I do some companion planting with my tomatoes. Um, I plant the marigolds next to them because they attract beneficial insects. And also the marigolds I plant are sort of a marigold that tends to spread out horizontally. And so they act as a ground cover. I do have to prune them height-wise. I just cut them off. And I also plant basil because I want to have about as many basil plants as I do tomato plants. It just works out well. And they taste good together when you cook them. But one thing that's happening to this basil is something that's very common when we're having, and I hit the wrong button. Let me go out of that. Okay, I meant to hit this one. Um, is Okay, this is a weed that's a morning glory seedling, and in that situation, it is a weed. Some places I do leave them. But you can tell the edge of this leaf is getting discolored. That is very likely a disease that's pretty relatively new to our area, probably past 5 years, called basal downy mildew. Um, the plant is probably big enough to outgrow it, especially since we know as we move into summer, the temperatures will get warmer, and this is a disease that likes the cool temperatures, so nights under 70 and especially nights under 65. And so that disease will do better when we have nights under 65 and a lot of rain. And so that's been the conditions we've been having. As soon as we move into hot days with less rain and warmer nights, it'll actually, it won't be gone, but it won't show itself as much. So what I'm going to do is I did pluck this leaf off and I removed that. And I do, and when I mulch, that'll help too because the fungus is in the ground. And so I expect it to outgrow it, which is common here. In nursery situations, it's a bigger problem because the plants don't tend to outgrow it, and they're always super high humidity. Okay, this is a bee balm. It's a red flowering bee balm that I planted in a area that when I planted it, it was part to full sun, and now it is in almost full shade. So what is happening is it doesn't bloom well. So as we go forward, I will take some pictures of the blooms and we'll see how many blossoms. Every one of these tips should be covered with a spike of really beautiful red bee balm flowers. But honestly, I don't expect that in this situation. So it is either time to do one of two things: remove the tree or move the plant, move my bee balm. And I think moving the bee balm is going to be a lot easier. Also, I have chicory in the same area. No, comfrey, not chicory. Comfrey in the same area, and it's having the same kind of issues. Okay, back now to my blueberries. These blueberries are just, they fruited really well. This is not a blueberry here. That's probably a volunteer pear. I do have a pear tree. It wouldn't be one of the calorie pears that comes from the Bradford pears, which are pretty invasive. It is probably from my kefir pear. I do tend to get a lot of seedlings from that. Okay, but what I took this to explain is, can you see how the veins are dark green and the leaf around it is lighter green?
Yeah.
That's an indication of chlorosis, which is an iron deficiency. In this case, it doesn't mean there's not enough iron in the soil, but it means the plant can't pull it up. So blueberries require acidic soil to be able to get to the iron that they need. And so what I should do technically is do a soil test and confirm that, which I might do later in the season. But I have sulfur and I'm going to put it out in this area. It won't solve the problem immediately, but it might help it for next year. So this is an indication that the soil is not acidic enough. And that's a pretty common thing for acid-loving plants, that you'll see chlorosis in the leaves when when
Howdy,
the soil isn't acid enough. Yes, Brian.
howdy, Miss Amy. What is the difference between iron chlorosis and nitrogen chlorosis?
Well, nitrogen chlorosis would be not enough for nitrogen, and you
Right.
have the dark green veins.
Okay.
When it's nitrogen, the whole leaf would be light colored. And I've actually had that happen with um, peppers that I planted in a container
Hmm.
that they didn't have enough nitrogen. I actually gave them a quick treatment of what is it, fish emulsion fertilizer, and they turned dark green almost overnight. But it was the
Right.
whole leaf. It wasn't
Yeah.
just the edges.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the difference. You don't very often have that in the soil, but you will sometimes have the nitrogen chlorosis in a container. Okay, milkweed is blooming beautifully. This is common milkweed. It is a pretty aggressive spreader. I think next week Lee will be back with us, and she will have some pictures of her. She's got some other milkweeds that aren't as aggressive in how they spread. This one is a native plant, but it is a pretty aggressive spreader. It'll do runners pretty far out from the initial plant.
And remind us of the ways to prune milkweed and not prune and what you want to do to optimize for pollinators.
Okay, for pollinators, you want to prune this plant probably now, but okay, there's a difference between managing it for pollinators and managing it for monarchs. So if I'm managing it for pollinators, I want to leave the flowers. If I'm managing it for monarchs, I want to keep it growing new leaves. So I don't want to let these flowers develop into seed pod, continue to develop. So if I were managing it for monarchs, I would cut it off by at least a third and take the flowers off, and then it would continue to produce new leaves. So I've got a couple different plants, and I probably will let some of them continue to flower, and then some of them I will cut off. So I'll sort of have the best of both. Monarchs do need a pollen source, but they also need a place to lay their eggs. And so milkweed leaves are the only food for monarch caterpillars. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's really a good thing to keep in mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it depends what your goals are. If your goal is supplying food for the monarch caterpillars, then you want to manage it differently. So you really don't want to let the flowers mature because then the plant will stop making new leaves. And then if you're managing it for pollinators, you want the flowers. Another thing is if you're wanting to get milkweed seed, or if you want to let a plant go to seed, you would manage things differently than if you just wanted the flowers. For seed, you would leave the flowers on there, you would let them mature. If you want more flowers, for many plants, you can do what's called deadheading, which is take the flowers off when they start to fade, and then many plants will produce more flowers. Okay. Um, this is a really interesting bug that's a common milkweed pest. It's called the milkweed beetle. And if you have a chance to see one, be sure to look at their eyes. They're just really unusual. Um, they generally don't cause significant harm to the plant. And since you're wanting to grow it for either pollinators or monarchs, you don't want to put pesticides on it because you don't want to harm them.
Amy, I posted a resource from the Xerces Society
Oh,
about milk
awesome.
use. Great resource.
Good. Okay. This is another reminder. Many of us have some water source out here. I've got, it's a large tub with a water lily in it. And so this year I've got tadpoles. But I also, before I had the tadpoles, I did have mosquito larvae. And so I put a piece of a mosquito dunk. It's a small tub, so I put a quarter of a mosquito dunk in here. And it did kill the mosquito larva. Now I did have to do it twice because the first one I used some old mosquito dunks and they did not work. Mosquito dunks are a biological insecticide that kill water breeding flies, which mosquitoes are. So they don't harm the tadpoles that are in here, except for they probably don't have quite as much food because they would probably eat the young mosquito larvae. But I'm not going to risk a whole generation of mosquitoes on my property. For the frogs, they have other things in there that they can eat that are not water breeding flies. But mosquito dunks are a biological, and biological insecticides, any of the BT type insecticides do have a lifetime. And so if you try to use a product that you've had for quite a while, it might be dead and not work. So that first mosquito dunk I put in there didn't work because it was just too old. You also want to store them away from a lot of heat for them to work best. Okay. Oh, little friend in my garden. Um, he eats some weeds. Very rarely bothers the plants that I want. And this is an event that's happening on Monday night. Larry Weiner, who is um, an author and speaker um, about natural landscape design. And so he's got a lot of really interesting stuff. And so everyone is invited. It's going to be at Lakeshore Park, Marble Hall. They are asking donations, and we'll have, I think they're passing a donation bucket around. I'm not even sure how it's going to happen. But it's sponsored jointly by Knox County Master Gardeners and the Knoxville Plantsman Group. And so we're excited to have him. He has designed some of the areas at Lakeshore Park, though I don't think that's what he's going to particularly be talking about at this time. If you come, be sure to bring a chair with you because there's not tons of seating there. So just bring a camp chair or something with you so you can be comfortable. And be sure to come and say hi. I know I will be there, and I think Margot's planning on being there. And I'm positive Brian's planning on being there. So,
I'm posting a link to the Knox County Master Gardeners website with information about Larry Weiner's talk.
oh,
And
good.
also we've got that in the events at the website at the Knox area gardening. Is that correct?
Yeah, Knoxville Area Gardening Tips Group. It's in the events. Oh, good, April. If you make it, be sure to come and say hi. I've met April at the farmers market before, quite a while ago.
Margot, I already posted the link from the Knox County Master Gardener site.
All right.
Oh, lovely. Okay.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm going to stop sharing here and we can
Miss
just.
Amy, I was just outside just a few minutes ago and I heard you say I was supposed to be there. So I wanted to make sure where I was supposed to be.
Yeah, you're supposed to be at what is
Yes.
it? It's
Right.
actually
It's our monthly meeting, but it's open to the public.
right. Usually our
Right.
monthly meetings are not open to the public. Um, but this is a special one and we're
Right.
doing it in cooperation with another group.
Right.
So it
Yes,
is going to be open to the public Monday night, 6 p.m., 6 to 8 p.m.
If you want to get a good seat or bring your own chair,
Mhm.
be sure to get there early so you can pick out where you want to sit.
Yes. And so that's what's happening with that. Um, let's see what else is happening in gardening around here. We're sort of past the plant sale days and just a lot of other things.
Well,
Um,
we're in the season of waiting for peppers to grow. That's one thing.
And waiting
yeah,
for tomatoes to grow. But
we've,
I have seen tomatoes at the farmers market.
you know,
Are there
um,
are there
on our,
tomatoes there? Brian, are there tomatoes at the market? Brian is at
um,
Dixie Lee Farmers Market today.
I'm trying to remember. I did a walkthrough this morning right there, and I probably did see them. I'm looking across way at Four Seasons. I don't
Oh,
see the
cool.
tomatoes out. I see carrots,
Oh,
and
yeah,
a
this
bunch
would
of
be a
other
great
stuff.
time to harvest carrots.
Yep. Um, there
Mhm.
may be some, but we've had a lot of cool weather,
Right,
so that may have held things up a little bit, unless you got a greenhouse.
right.
Uh, yeah.
Well, you
Um,
definitely you wouldn't have tomatoes now unless you had a greenhouse.
right. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
you would many of the farmers around here will do a lot of their plants in a greenhouse so they can control the situation
Right.
and get crops to market earlier.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Uh, some things, two things that I've written about during this week. I hear a lot of people have had questions about unusual growth on their roses.
Hmm.
And in most cases, yes, sadly, I've had to say that it is rose rosette disease. I give references on how to deal with it afterwards. But there's been
Hmm.
a few of them just springtime maroon color, not the red color. And
Oh, okay.
that is a lack of magnesium in the
Oh,
rose
okay.
tips.
Hmm.
So that's so that's a forgiving thing right there. Um,
Right.
but I have posted numerous articles about rose rosette disease. Also, I did, was it last night?
Hmm.
Fire ants.
Oh, yeah.
Um, so wrote about that. John Goddard from Loudoun County Extension
Right.
sent me an article on had a gas can in the picture. And this is a no-no, using gas to
Yeah, that's super dangerous.
yes, it is right there. But I shared that article with our group, and I
Yeah.
shared another article, I think from Minnesota or something like that. I don't
Hmm.
know. But it answers a number of questions I
Oh,
felt
good.
significant for us.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some fire ants, but we're also having issues with oh, I call them sugar ants getting into the
Oh yes,
house.
yes, yes.
And those have been really annoying. And we use a liquid bait that's got boric acid in it. And if we're not having a really bad problem, that works. But the past couple of years, we've had it really bad. And I did get um, a spinosad, which is a natural based um, ant treatment that says it works for those kind of ants. A fire ant bait is not going to work for those
No.
because they're after fire ants are after things that have a lot of protein in them, but those little ants are after things that have a lot of sugar in them.
Right. Right.
So the bait you use is different,
Right.
and I honestly don't remember what it's called, but it
Oh,
is an ant bait.
right.
For the little ants, it doesn't say fire ants on it.
Yeah. One thing we do want to share with our folks right here, and it's not uncommon for people to aggravate thinking by agitating the mound
Yeah.
will drive them away, and they may think it works for a little while,
Hmm.
but when I did the article on fire ants right there, I showed a couple of photos of how these fire ant mounds have satellites
Yes.
and across the yard, but also further underneath at several different
Hmm.
levels right there. So you are not going to bother them that much right there. You may stir them up. They
Right.
may disappear, but you didn't kill them, not by any means,
Hmm.
not with hot water, not with anything.
Yeah. They might
So,
abandon that particular
right,
entrance.
right,
Yeah. And one of the things to remind everyone is, you're seeing people harvesting potatoes and carrots and onions, and this is the time you're doing that. It's actually not the time to be planting those things. One of the good places to go is the fruit and veggie calendar, and I usually have one here, but I don't have one here right now. Um, and also, oh, what is the reference? I do have a copy of that here. What is it? The fruit and veg, there's a Tennessee Home Fruit Garden series, vegetable garden series, and this is publication W346B. And so this is just the chart at the end of it, and it goes over the timings of when to plant what things. And so we're past the time to plant the cool season vegetables, but
Yeah,
we're well within timing to plant all your summer vegetables. And so this will help you know, go to this publication, and it has a really good listing of what's cool season and warm season vegetables and when you should plant what.
right.
Because I know a lot of people get disappointed that they'll plant their carrots now and they will almost immediately either die or try to go to seed. And that's not what you want with carrots. But it's just because our weather's wrong for them right now. And so, it is this thing you can really easily study up on. Let's see. Jeremy says he uses cross-check pesticide for fire ants. Yeah, there are a lot. Is it a mound treatment? I'm not familiar with that particular one. Um, One of the important things to do is make sure it's labeled for the pest you're working with, you're trying to eliminate on the label or on their online information about it. They've moved a lot of the information from being actually on the label to being everyone has frozen. No, they haven't frozen. Okay, good. To being not on the label, but you have to go online to look it up. So you want to do things according to the directions. That's the important thing. Um, and as far as how you treat it, follow the directions. So there's lots of good fire ant treatments available, both organic and synthetic. Um, and I've actually used both kinds. And so, yay! We have ways to treat the fire ants, and I'm very glad for them. Um, okay, so this week I'm wanting to get my peppers in. It is a little later than I would plan to, but things happen. Sometimes you can't get to things when you really intend to. Um, so what's happening? Toby? You said Toby is actually straddling her life between Tennessee and Washington State.
Yeah, yeah. It's
And
been
so,
fun. It's been an
yeah.
education. So a few things. We have two kinds of hummingbirds here. One stays around and one migrates.
Hmm.
So I put up a hummingbird feeder right in front of our kitchen window, and we've been watching both kinds come and drink.
Hmm.
And it's crazy because we don't have a lot of flowers in our garden. Our garden is mostly right now, mostly evergreen trees and grass
Hmm.
and and Himalayan blackberry and
Hmm.
other invasives. So we have a few. We have some rhododendron. We have a lilac bush that I'm ready to go deadhead because the lilac uh, flowers are almost spent.
Hmm.
But so that's one thing. We have deer roaming through and grazing because we have 5 acres. So they roam through and graze. They love to get into our bird seed.
Hmm.
They like safflower seeds apparently.
Oh,
We watch them lick the bottom of the birds.
oh God.
So I am building boxes. We have a grow house, but we've taken down the poly. It's a very large grow house, and we've taken down the poly plastic because it was started
Hmm.
tearing. It gets degraded in the UV sun and the wind.
Yeah.
And so I've started to build boxes, and when I've got them filled, I'm taking pictures of the process and I'll bring them back. I'll show them here because you can use the system I'm using, you can use it anywhere. And I'll talk about why I chose to orient the boxes the way I did and how I built them and what I put in them. But today the boxes are now built. They're inside the grow house.
Mhm.
I'm going to put plastic only on the sides of the grow house so that the deer don't get in and eat everything
Uh-huh.
overnight. And then I'm going to do like hagel culture. So I'm going to start with the bottom of the box with stumps, like
Yeah.
not stumps really, but like logs and branches. And then I'm going to layer. It's sort of like lasagna gardening where you layer different types. So you're basically composting in place. And so I'll put a layer of I've been saving my food scraps from my house, although I don't have enough really probably for all the boxes, but and then I'll layer with cardboard and compost and soil. And so it will actually compost in place and I can still plant the plants in the top. So I'll take pictures and share next time
Yeah.
I'm here. But that's kind of what's going on. The other thing I'm just learning about the difference in climate here. It is much cooler later.
Mhm.
And I bought some plants because like tomatoes, you have to be skillful at planting tomatoes and getting a good
Right.
harvest here. Um, and I've done it before because I've lived here before. I'm from here, so I've grown tomatoes. So I'm working out, the surprising differences. And then the soil, of course, is very different in our yard. It's not clay, it's actually glacial till, which is sandy. And instead of holding water, at least in some parts of our garden, we also have a pond and water sheets down that way. But instead of holding water, it kind of water goes through and it doesn't have a lot of nutrient. So I'm doing raised beds for that reason in my garden. And then the final thing is, and I'll take some pictures of this as well. We've got various fruit trees that have never been managed. So they have multiple trunks, they're together, they're planted too closely together. And we've started to identify what kind of trees they are. They're starting to fruit. And I know a couple of years ago I harvested apples and made apple butter, but we're finding some surprises, like we have a pear tree, which we didn't realize we had.
Mhm.
So, but we have a cherry plum, which is an interesting mix. We have some sweet cherries, different apple varieties, and then we have a bunch of blueberries that the previous owner planted. They
Mhm.
wanted to, I think they wanted to do commercial blueberry production. Many of them have died because they need irrigation. And our yard does get hot in the summer. And when you were talking about the chlorosis on the leaves, I've
Mhm.
noticed they probably did not get the right soil. They just planted them in the ground. And it's acid soil around here. I have
Yeah.
one set of 3 blueberry plants that are near a pine tree. And they're
Mhm.
the plant that is closest to the conifer is the plant that has the most fruit on it because they're starting to
Okay.
fruit.
Yeah.
And I think that's because of the acidity of the soil.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it's really interesting to see how microclimates are happening in our yard, even like a foot from each other, right?
Yeah.
So those are all the things that are going on in the garden. Then we're thinking about, where are we gonna, we're thinking about planting plant guilds around our
Mhm.
fruit trees. So I'll talk about
Oh,
that later when we
nice.
get into it.
Yeah. That is great. Yeah, one thing I've realized is, even if well, what Toby mentioned is about planting plant guilds. A guild is like companion planting, just
Hmm.
on a perennial, usually with perennial plants.
Yeah, you plant around a fruit tree and you choose plants, and I can talk about this
Hmm.
later. You choose plants for different reasons. So for mulching, for
Yeah.
nitrogen fixing, for breaking up the soil, there's different pollination. When you plant a guild, it's a
Hmm.
permaculture uh, sort of
Term.
concept,
Yeah.
but it helps to support the fruit trees.
Yeah. And permanent permaculture is a word that was coined by permanent and agriculture.
Mhm.
And then now some people do it as permanent in culture, you know. But it's just a way of looking at a landscape, at a
Mhm.
some people use it as a way of looking at society, but we're not really talking about that, looking at
Yeah,
things that way
I
here.
did a permaculture 101
Hmm.
here in Gardening Tips Live a couple years ago.
Yes.
Slideshow, etc. Yeah. So
Yeah.
if you're interested, look in the guides. It's there somewhere in the videos.
Hopefully, because
Hopefully, it's in YouTube
we're
somewhere.
actually losing some of our old videos just because of the change
Mm,
in YouTube. I think we've got until July to move those to Facebook. No, to YouTube.
yeah, to
Where
YouTube.
we might actually, we're probably going to lose some of them because we basically have 30 some shows a year and 5 years worth of shows. And
Yeah.
that's a
Can you
lot
believe
of
it?
videos to transfer. But
Believe
oh, well, we're glad to have you with us. Um, if you didn't catch the show live, catch the whole show, you can go back and watch us. We'll have that uploaded to the YouTube channel pretty soon, and we'll have that tagged in this post so you can find us. But looks like it's going to be a great week. Temperatures are going up, so it's going to feel like summer. And so happy gardening, everyone. Talk to you later. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Let me stop the live stream. Wait, where is it? I hit the wrong button. What's going on here?
Oh.
It's
Somebody's going
saying
to do our
remind
outtakes
participants to
sometime.
watch.